Tori, we now know that JoJo met with a 17-year-old classmate here at the rec center on the day of his death to either buy or sell a gun. 2,208 years in prison on top of 5 life sentences. It's one of the longest sentences in Colorado history, second only to that of the Aurora Theater shooter. With Halloween approaching and fentanyl a prevalent problem, law enforcement wants you to know the difference between rainbow fentanyl and candy like this. Well, Tori, it sounds like a Halloween prank, but the Aurora couple that found an urn at this car wash say it's anything but funny. I'm here with Drew Henderson, and we just got some snow on us live on TV. How'd that feel?
Felt great.
But not even the first shock that Drew has gotten from the snow today. Can you tell us how you woke up in the middle of the night to this? That Lakewood man boarded the eastbound W line right here and was only going one stop. But moments after getting on that train, he was attacked by a group of teenagers. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and provide the poor homeless with shelter? It's a scripture from Isaiah 58 that the pastor of this church quotes as to why they're suing the town. This here is Leo, and as far as we know, he's the first and only senior resource law enforcement dog in the state of Colorado. Kelly, let me show you how close it is. Right here is where that battery manufacturing facility will be, and just across the street are people's homes. The star of Saturday night's Eagles game isn't one of the players. It's 14-year-old Cooper Logan, a.k.a. DJ Lil Coop. Imagine waking up and finding all of your and your children's belongings stolen. That was the case for one Denver family, but their possessions were the least of their worries. This all happened right here, and she's hoping someone will recognize that thief. She knows what he looks like thanks to footage from this security camera. 4,000 beads. Each one represents an operation or milestone for 11-year-old Jackson. Take a look at this sea of baggage behind me. Now, this isn't new. We've been seeing scenes like this since Thursday. The 24-hour manhunt for the shooter who took 3 lives and injured another is finally over. Now, Skebby estimates Colorado's flocks will be repopulated around May, and that's when we can expect to see egg prices go down and stabilize. But inflation and that new cage-free law will keep those prices a little higher than we're used to. If a tree falls during a high wind event, does it make a sound? Well, the owners of this home say the answer is yes. Now, take a look at this cross-section of an infested tree. That dark there is actually the fungus, and you can see how it just moves towards the core of the tree. He says he won't let this shooting haunt him, and ended our interview by saying there's a lot more love out there than hate. When Timothy started school, he didn't speak any English, and his classmates didn't speak Russian. But they soon found a way to communicate that transcends language. On Timothy's first day of school at Tennyson Knoll Prep, his new classmates asked him what he liked to do over Google Translate.
He mentioned that he played the piano.
Teacher Trisha Corno didn't know what to expect.
Timothy starts playing, and it was as though it was an American Idol audition. All of the students' jaws just hit the floor. Everybody's clapping and cheering, and some kids were crying. They had never heard anything so beautiful, and nor had I.
His mother, Ella Salamatina, would agree.
There's a saying in Russian, genius is 99% work and 1% talent. I think Timothy has talent from God.
Timothy has studied piano for 7 years.
It's my dream. I want a career in this as a pianist.
It's a gift that he's cultivated despite enormous adversity.
This war left an imprint on all of us. We saw it with our own eyes. We heard how the shells explode.
In 2014, Timothy, his parents, and his 4 siblings fled from their home in the Donetsk region of Ukraine to elsewhere in the country. But in 2020, the war followed them.
The place where we lived there, it was shelled. It was very scary. We ran from one house to the basement to hide from the shells, and God put a wall over us.
Finally, in March, they emigrated to Colorado. But Timothy's oldest brother, Andre, was left behind.
Men from 18 to 60 years old can't leave the country.
As the war rages on, their chances of ever returning dwindle.
In the village where we lived, there was an explosion and our house was very damaged. At the moment, we see no way to go back. It's dangerous for kids to be there.
But they're adjusting to life in Colorado.
We are grateful to America as a country. We're grateful to the school and our favorite teacher. She's devoted a lot of time to us.
He's passionate about his learning. He's passionate about his music. He's just such an inspiration for our students.
Timothy is making friends and learning English. But in the meantime, he tells his story through music.
Music is the universal language, and he proved that.
In Adams County, I'm Olivia Young, covering Colorado First. Now, Douglas County last passed a mill levy in 2018, but that funding is currently $2,000 lower per student than neighboring districts. That's why the district is asking voters to approve a property tax increase so they can pay teachers more. But will they say yes in a year when property taxes are already off the charts?
Our schools are in crisis. We can't keep teachers in the classroom.
Veteran teacher Matthew Solak is used to seeing his coworkers leave Douglas County in search of better pay.
We currently are paying about $20,000 a year under our neighbors in average teacher salary.
Starting salaries for teachers in Douglas County are among the lowest in the metro area, despite being one of the wealthiest counties in the country.
5 or 10 years ago, we would have had hundreds of applicants for a single teacher position. Today, we have 5 or sometimes 0.
A similar shortage in bus drivers means students now experience weeks without bus service.
We started this school year with 104 open bus driver positions with no applicants. And that's why we had to do the rolling blackouts. We had no choice.
A challenge for parents like working single mom Shannon Gibson.
What's going to come next year, I don't know, it's really crazy to think that this is something that's going on.
The district's proposed solution, a mill levy and bond on the November ballot. Measure 5A is a $66 million mill levy, $60 million of which would go to increasing new and existing staff pay by about 9%, with $6 million going to security.
I'm all for it. I've been out canvassing for it. It's so important to pay our teachers competitively and keep them here in Douglas County.
5B is a $484 million bond for capital investments, including the creation of new schools in Sterling Ranch, the Canyons, and Crystal Valley.
We have pockets of massive growth where we have new neighborhoods and new communities. Those communities need schools as well.
Together, 5A and 5B would increase property taxes on $1 million home by $200 a year. It comes after a near 50% increase in home values in the county, an unprecedented jump that will translate to property taxes. That's why the Douglas County GOP does not endorse the mill levy.
Our message has been between the economic situation and the existing school budget situation, now is not the right time.
Megan Silverthorne is a former DCSD school board member herself and has concerns about funding transparency.
What's happening? Let's talk as a community about why those aren't translating into bus driver hires, money in the classrooms.
What can you say to people who may have a distrust of the school board or concerns about how this money is going to be spent?
How the money is spent is determined by the ballot questions that have already been approved by the school board.
Kane says the money is already locked in for teacher pay.
When there's a great teacher in the classroom, that teacher builds relationships with students that are long-lasting.
Which Solak hopes will address the crisis he sees in Douglas County classrooms. Now, if voters approve 5A and 5B in November, the salary bump for teachers would be instant, and it would be retroactive to July of this year. Now, Superintendent Kane says she can't promise that the bus situation would instantly be remedied, but we would be on the path back to providing full transportation again. In Douglas County, I'm Olivia Young, covering Colorado First. 39 victims of Suzanne Neville will be entitled to financial restitution if the judge accepts her plea agreement Friday. But the Parker police tell me they have reports from more than 120 victims.
This was my daughter.
In 2020, bride-to-be Sarah Garcia thought she'd found her dream wedding photographer in Suzanne Neville.
She had a website and definitely looked legit.
Garcia purchased a wedding package for $1,400.
The only stipulation was that you had to pay in full the same day.
But when she tried to schedule the engagement and boudoir shoots,
it always came down to something like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't call you, or your phone sent me to voicemail.
As the day grew closer, Garcia began to panic.
And I'm getting a little nervous just from the lack of communication. She said, hello, I think my phone likely marked you as spam.
The night before her wedding in May of 2021, Neville texted to say she would be there. But on the big day, another photographer showed up.
She said someone was in the hospital with COVID or something like that Suzanne had told her.
Garcia shook off the disappointment and enjoyed her wedding. But Neville never paid that photographer. In order to get her photos, Garcia had to pay them $1,200.
So this was our first look.
Only after repeated threats of legal action did Neville return most of Garcia's money. Garcia soon learned she was one of the lucky ones.
Some women say that they never got their photos and that they never got their money back.
A Facebook group warning against hiring Neville has 1,600 members. Many are brides and photographers who say Neville still owes them thousands of dollars. Neville was charged with 8 counts of felony theft and pleaded guilty to 1 in January. She'll have to pay $40,000 in restitution and serve a 4-year deferred sentence, meaning no jail time unless she violates the terms of the plea. Neville's old website is no longer active, but the Secretary of State lists her name with another photography business called Becoming You. Garcia hopes the criminal case will protect other brides from having their happiest day marred by a scammer.
And you can't do that day again.
Despite calling, reaching out to Suzanne on Instagram and Facebook, and through her business's website, she never got back to me. Her sentencing will be at 2:30 on Friday at the Douglas County Courthouse. In Douglas County, I'm Olivia Young, covering Colorado First.